Thank you. First up on the agenda is approval of our minutes from April 11th, 2023. To have a motion. Move approve. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion, additions, deletions, corrections? If not, all in favor? Thank you. Hello? Hello?
We'll say
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, third up, number 3A, ordinance to amend chapter 54 of the code of the city of Charleston, adding new section 54-110 to article 1, parking or storage of commercial vehicles. Scooters, are you gonna take the lead on this? All right, well, congratulations.
Okay, so this has come before you a few times already. The first was January, when we presented it and then we deferred it so that Councilmember Shea could be with us. And then the second time it took me to bring it back to you, we actually asked for it because we thought it was better suited to the zoning code versus the offensive code. And now we council agreed to defer to make that change, so we've done so. And we are back before you now for the recommendation for our first reading. For a amendment to the zoning code, which will prohibit parking and storage in certain zoning areas. And I can go through it if you wish, or if you have any questions.
Let's see if there's any specific questions. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Shade in a minute, but before we do, any questions generally from any member of the committee about this? All right, Councilmember Shade, I'm going to, oh, sorry, Mayor.
So, I wouldn't mind if Melissa would take a minute and go through it. I guess, the question I had, in mind was about the definition of all the vehicles and trailers that this would apply to. It certainly, seems like a pretty inclusive list that impacts a lot of citizens. I know you got the exclusion, I guess, on owner property, but still, you know, I bet there'd be a lot of exceptions out there given the exclusive list that you have here. But if you don't mind, Mr.
No,
Chairman,
absolutely.
having Melissa just kind of walk us through it. It's not very long, obviously.
So we are amending, that's so much better. We are amending the zoning definition. We're adding a definition for commercial vehicles into the zoning code. And that includes limousines, which we have defined elsewhere in the code. It includes flatbed trucks, trailers, and then kind of sort of catch-alls, vehicles over 20 feet in length or 7 feet in height or 7 feet in width. More than 6 axles, with 6 wheels or 2 axles, or a vehicle that weighs over 14,000 pounds. So it is pretty inclusive. It's to incorporate a wide range of vehicles. And then, so that's the definition that we're talking about commercial vehicles. And then under conditional uses, we're adding a section that prohibits the parking of these commercial vehicles in conservation, residential office, limited business, and general business districts, unless the commercial vehicle is used by the resident of where the vehicle is located. There is permission by the owner, evidenced by a permit in the windshield or somewhere visible on the vehicle, and it's not parked there for more than 48 consecutive hours, or is deemed necessary for public safety or otherwise authorized by the city. There's also a prohibition on sleeping in the vehicle overnight, and we can cite the owner of the property, and enforcement can be through livability and a fine of up to $500 or 30 days in jail.
Thank you. So if I may
Please.
follow up,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just honestly believe that the definition is too inclusive for what we were trying to accomplish when Councilmember Shade brought this to us. I think there was a occasional instance of what I call a full-size tractor trailer truck parked in an inappropriate place. And I'm all for getting those trucks to park somewhere else. But the way I read this, I mean, even my son's small, flat pickup style truck, but it's a flat bed truck. If I wanted to borrow it for the weekend and park it in my driveway, it would be contrary to this ordinance. And I think it's gone beyond what the original intent was, and that we should narrow, if we're going to move forward with something, that we should narrow it to really address those big oversized trucks and long. I think of them as being 40-foot plus trailers. They're really over the road trucks and trailers, I think was the original intent. I could be wrong, but that's what I would recommend if we were to move forward with something. Thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wholeheartedly agree with the mayor. This seems, we're going further than the large trucks that I mean, I agree. I mean, we need to do something to eliminate that problem that you're having in West Ashley, but I certainly feel like that there are some residents or citizens that this may affect negatively, and I don't want to put them in that position. Do you feel that way, Councilmember Sheehy? I mean, can I ask you that question since I know this is an issue in your district?
And I don't think this is an issue just limited to my district, quite frankly. I think this is a problem of commercial style vehicles are being parked overnight. I did receive a phone call from a president of I guess, trucking association of some sort, asking this is a problem for them. Here's a situation with this, and if this is gonna be a long answer, and I apologize for the length of my answer. Commercial vehicles are parking in areas near neighborhoods in West Ashley. We're trying to revitalize West Ashley. And when you see these big trucks, commercial sized vehicles park in West Ashley, it is not what I would deem the essence of revitalization. Now, I think that this way this ordinance is written, working with Melissa, we tried to make this as simple as possible and not overcomplicate this. And we wanted the definition to be broad enough to leave up for interpretations. And you're right, Mayor, to some extent, part of the problem was that 18-wheelers were being parked on property that the city owned on Sumar Street. We have been able to address that problem by putting up ropes and barricades so people can't get there. They still do. The other day I was out there and there was a company using it as a staging area to do some commercial work over there. But if I'm a property owner and I live there and I have my truck there, I think you're exempted from having that there. This is not, I don't think, attacking that type of a problem. The other issue that we need to address is that the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation, uses the green space on Ashley Landing, which abuts up to Ashley Hall Manor, and they park their maintenance vehicles there regularly. They do it for convenience, so they don't have to haul it back and forth to their maintenance shed. It's right up next to a neighborhood. The neighbors are very much up in arms about it, and I agree with them. It's an eyesore they have to look at on a regular basis. So what we're trying to address is to make this as very broad. If you want to straighten up some of the definitions on this, I'm not going to fuss about it. But in the long run, these are places that, and the only way of attacking this is through this zoning ordinance, so that you can't use your property for unintended purpose. You can't use your property for a parking. That's what we're trying to accomplish. If you were a driver of you got a commercial driver's license and you've got your cab parked there, that's your private property. It's part of your job. That's not going to be an issue. If you got a big old pickup truck with 6 wheels on it, we call it a dually, I don't think that impacts this at all. But I think that the intent of this is to get these oversized commercial style vehicles and mowers out of people's backyards. That's what we're trying to, front yards for that part, or parking in these abandoned shopping centers that we're trying to address one by one. And I think this ordinance is trying to accomplish that.
All right, any other question from any other member of the committee? I think sort of from my view, I agree with the sort of the broad definition. I also worry about the permission and the definition of permission. I mean, it puts a big onus back on the property owner to identify him or herself, to have it displayed properly. I mean, I just think we're putting ourselves in a quagmire. I don't think we're quite there on this yet. But I don't know. Do we have a motion on this? I don't think we've had a motion. Do we have a motion? What's the committee's pleasure on this? Keep working on it?
Yes.
All right, if it's keep working on it, can I get a motion to defer?
I'll
With
move
some,
we defer.
with some direction?
Second.
Let's not let this go on forever. Please, we're not gonna have a meeting in June, so if we can just get this on the next agenda and see if we can, when's our next meeting? It'll be July.
Right.
So, yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may add, maybe not officially as part of the motion, but ask that we really drill the definition down on those vehicles
Yeah.
that Councilmember Shade mentions that are most problematic. And then I would just like to remind everybody that we're willing and able to address some, spot situations with existing ordinances. And even go so far, I know the issue came up about the highway department and their equipment. We're relaying a request to them to kindly store those pieces of equipment at another property that they in fact own that's not too far away. So and another fine example was our livability department a week or so ago delivered notices to all the car dealers up and down Savannah Highway, putting them on notice that not only will car carrying drivers be ticketed, but we will also find a violation against the car dealer themselves if their deliveries are made in the median
That's
of
dangerous.
Savannah Highway. So we can continue to work on this, but I would just ask if anybody's got a particular instance that needs to be addressed, to please let TNT or livability know as appropriate, and we'll certainly try to deal with it.
So the motion on the floor is to defer, to come back in July with some, not part of the motion, but with some suggestions as to how to get this. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll see this back in July. Next on our agenda, 4, new business, authorization for the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the county of Charleston regarding Highway 17 intersection improvements.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Do we need to know what these are? Or are we satisfied? Oh,
She's.
hello.
There you are.
I'm here, everyone. Sorry about that.
You're
I was in
muted.
HR.
We can't hear you. We can see you. Now try.
Can you hear me now?
We still can't hear you.
I'm unmuted.
Keep talking. We'll try to read lips.
Can you hear me now?
Hang on. I think we're working on it on our end.
I can
Okay,
hear
good.
you from here, so I think it's a
We got
speaker
you.
issue.
All right.
We
Just
got
let me
you.
know when you can hear me.
We can hear you. Let's
Okay.
go for it. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So to refresh your memory, we are talking specifically about several intersections, but this is the big one of importance right here, the Nicholson intersection along Highway 17. We've been going back and forth. One of the first steps that we need to accomplish here is the IGA with the county, spelling out our rights and responsibilities as we move forward. I just want to draw attention to specific changes we made to this IGA with the county, and the county has agreed to these, specifically with term and termination provisions. If the county does withdraw from this and terminate prior to us actually initiating the condemnation proceedings, they will pay for all costs, fees associated with the work that we've put in up to that point. I mean, we have already spoken with an appraiser to go ahead and get the appraisals started. That's going to be a cost of about $9,800 and 6 to 8 week timeline for us. The second piece, of course, here would be if they terminate after we have started the acquisition, the county would pay 50% of the costs for the take and our fees and costs associated with that, and that we would still maintain title and ownership of the properties. Also, they have a hard deadline here for us of December 31st, 2023 to finish the acquisition, but have given us this line here that will allow us to seek additional time, which would not be unreasonably denied if we do need additional time to get that wrapped up. And another piece that was requested was the county to agree to participate in community outreach and to incorporate, I think specifically about pedestrian and bike access and use for these intersections, and to incorporate that feedback into the plans. So that's the IGA that's currently before you for a vote. We would recommend approval.
Okay, can I get a motion on that? I think I had a motion.
I think we had.
Any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to report, because there was some consternation communicated from a couple of the neighborhoods that our civic design team and traffic and transportation have come up with some good ideas for traffic calming and to address some of those concerns. They haven't been brought to the neighborhood yet. We're going to meet with the county project managers and get their buy-in on the measures that are being recommended. And then meet with the neighborhood and particularly the folks at Blessed Sacrament Church to get everybody, so to speak, on the same page, along with County Council Member Kylon Middleton. But we do believe addressing those concerns that long-term, this intersection improvement brings great results. It changes the future rating of this intersection area from like a D failure 20 years from now to a A. I mean, a marked difference, and it makes it safer and allows our fire trucks to get in and out of Nicholson a lot easier. So I know we have some concerns to address, and I just wanted the committee and the public to know that we are working on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Copeland, I got a question about the land acquisition. Do you think it's going to take us beyond the end of the year to get that completed? Have we already identified all the properties and started the process?
We have identified the properties and we have been communicating with some of the owners. I think some of this will not actually be through the condemnation process as opposed to an outright acquisition. But I think ultimately that's going to come down to what these properties appraise for. But I cannot anticipate this going beyond December 31st. But with the court system, if we do have to condemn, that's
Right.
always a question mark.
How many properties is it? Do you know?
3 or 4.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on, I'm going to share screen with you guys if I can.
I guess I could look.
You see that?
Yes,
There
I'm
we go.
being lazy. I've got it in front of me.
Right. I think the appraiser is anticipating 8 individual appraisals because they're also counting the right of way when it comes to negotiations with the current owners, because there's going to be a swap of some of these pieces. So I'm going to guess 8 appraisals at this point, meaning 8 different parcels that they're looking at, but I can get more detail for you to answer that question.
That's fine. We've got the schematic. We've all got it. Okay. Any other questions, comments, discussion on this item? I think we got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is Safe Streets and Roads for All, grant, Mr. Mathis.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Department of Traffic and
By
Transportation.
the way, the pitcher on the winning city softball team at the city picnic right there, ERA of less than 3. There he is, Michael Mathis, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, sir.
Boom.
Appreciate that.
Well, made it.
Traffic and
Sorry.
Transportation. Thank you. You threw me off my game a little bit.
I wanted to throw you the same curveball you threw
You
to
did.
that
I
other
appreciate
team.
that. Yeah, thank you. So Traffic and Transportation is currently working on a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. This application is through the U.S. Department of Transportation. The initial, they have 2 grant opportunities. One is for an action plan and the other is for an implementation plan. We are going for an action plan. And the reason for that is we need to update our current comprehensive transportation study in order to meet the federal requirements of an action plan. So we need to add a little bit of, it's a good foundation, but we need to add a few things. The city will have to adopt a Vision Zero statement and several other things as part of that. So the implementation grant will be later on. It's more of a construction type grant. So once we get approval for the action plan grant, then we will seek the implementation grant. And this will require a match on the city's behalf of 20%. This initial action plan, we anticipate will take, the minimum amount is $100,000 that you can apply for. We anticipate applying for that amount or a little more. So our estimated match would be in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. This is for information only today. We had to bring it to the May TNT committee because we're not having a June TNT committee. And this is due on July the 10th.
Okay.
So,
Is this a citywide action plan?
yes, sir, it will be part of the comprehensive transportation plan. We'll be updating that with all the necessary information.
Mr. Mayor, I saw you pushed your button.
So you apply for this grant and you're successful and update the plan, so to speak. And that makes you eligible for the next round.
Yes, sir.
And so I was just curious what the range is on the next round on the implementation. What kind of money would we be eligible to apply for when we get there?
So there are different amounts of money that you can apply for. The grant itself, the federal government's giving $1 billion a year for the next 5 years. So it could be, millions of dollars that we could apply for depending on what the project is.
Is essentially is the monies that we would get if we got the action plan grant would be to hire a consultant to go out and put the action plan together. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, sir. That would be our process.
Okay. From my perspective, I wouldn't limit yourself to an X number. Maybe this committee can give you some direction on do not exceed number, but it seems like 100,000 is, how do you hire anybody for $100,000 to do a citywide safety plan? You can't, right? So I don't know, does this committee want to give some direction on a cap on this? Or you want to just let them go forward and see how they do?
Yeah, we are glad to apply for more and do more. We felt like $100,000 range would be enough to update our current study, which is pretty comprehensive.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. Yes, I am so excited about this grant, as you know, from some of my emails, but so I understand it's going to sort of update for the safety aspect, which is what is needed to get the federal money. So when we talk about citywide, we talk about it a lot with our streets belonging to other, jurisdictions. How does that all work together? How do we all work together when updating that plan? Because I think, as I told you up at the COG, they're doing this as well, correct? So they're doing their own study on their streets? How are we working together to kind of make sure this happens? Because ultimately, bumping ahead, things like Rethink Folly Road, it's a multi-layered deal that's going to need to happen. So how will that work together?
Yes, ma'am. One of the requirements of the grant is to ensure that there's coordination among jurisdictions and regional partners. The BCD COG is applying for an action plan grant. So we'll be applying at the same time. So we'll be coordinating with them throughout this effort.
Are we competing with them for this grant?
Good question.
I guess in a way we are, but there's a lot of money available. There were 400 and something, 70 something grants given for last year's action plans throughout the nation. So
Sorry.
A coordinated effort is probably a good idea.
Right. Obviously.
my understanding is also the BCD COG applied last year, but did not win they were not awarded the grant. So
My last question, is there anything that we can do? This body can do to help to try to get that grant? Is this, who is deciding who gets this grant?
yeah, the US DOT will be the ultimate decider in that. So we may be reaching out to the TNT committee for letters of support.
Okay.
But anything you can do along those lines, we would certainly appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, the DOT has paid a visit here recently, so perhaps that will be helpful. All right, no action needed, right? I think you've kind of got
Correct.
the general sentiment of the committee. Anything else from any member? All right, thank you. Next, Rethink Folly Road update. Ms. Parker from the county and Councilmember Parker who requested this. It's the Parker Show. Welcome.
Okay, so
Floor is yours.
I am the project manager. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Just need to dip it over there.
Okay, sorry. I'm the project manager for phase 1, Rethink Folly. Really the 4 things I'm tracking with this project is engineering and permitting, utility coordination, right-of-way acquisition, and then construction when we get to it. We have completed our permitting requirements. We do have final plans, so that's a big milestone for this project. We do have our permits from DOT, DHEC, TRC finally signed off as well. So that was good news. Our next major thing is utility coordination. This project does have federal funds, so we are required to complete rigorous documentation for different project elements, and utility coordination is one of them. We do have a final utility coordination report that we've submitted to DOT. They've turned around 2 minor comments that we're addressing, so we should be ready for that approval here soon. So that leaves right-of-way acquisition. That's kind of the big thing left that we need to tackle. Again, this project has a big footprint, over a mile on the Folly Road corridor. So we are acquiring a lot of right-of-way. We've identified 50 tracks that we need right-of-way or permissions from. We have secured what we need from 30 of those tracks. We do have 20 tracks left to negotiate offers on, or condemn if it comes down to that. But we've given our right-of-way agent about 60 days to resolve these negotiations, just so this phase of the project isn't holding us up any longer. So this is really the critical path of our project now, is the right-of-way acquisition. After those 60 days, we can move on to construction, so we can advertise the projects. The county advertises for about a month or so. So if we advertise in the summer, realistically, we'd get to construction sometime in the fall. That's where we're at right now. Any questions?
All right, let's I'm making some notes. I see a couple of hands up. We'll start with the mayor, then we'll go to Councilmember Parker. Mr.
Could
Mayor.
you just remind us where it starts and stops?
So this is going to start at the Ellis Creek Bridge and continue to George Griffith. That's phase 1.
To where?
George Griffith Boulevard. That's phase 1, and that'll be sidewalks, 7 to 8 foot sidewalks, and also green bike lanes intermittently throughout the corridor.
On the east side, the west side?
So we're installing sidewalk on both sides.
Both
So
sides.
from Ellis Creek down to about Camp Road is on the south side. And then we connect to sidewalks that are at the Camp Road intersection. And then we flip to the north side and continue our sidewalk to George Griffith.
Great.
Huh.
What multi-use path? I'm calling it a sidewalk, but it's really a multi-use path. So it's 8 foot wide.
Mhm. Thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mrs. Parker, for
Yes,
being here
no
today,
problem.
because you already gave this presentation,
No problem.
twice a couple weeks ago.
Happy
So
to do it.
thank you so much. It's really exciting, but let's see. So my question, really why I brought you here, I think it's great for y'all to get an update. I mean, I know some of you have been working on this or have heard about this for a long time, so this is really exciting. I know some of the acquisition stuff, that's tricky with the overlay. It's, on James Island, it's it's tricky, but it sounds like you and the city have been navigating it really well. So really, ultimately, my goal here today was just sort of planning ahead. I mean, I hate to skip over all of this
Yeah.
great work that's taken all these, so many years, but I mean, now that we're here, we see how long it's taken. Planning ahead, I mean, what are our next steps? What does the city need to do? We have
I
our
think-
traffic and transportation
I think
committee.
securing funding is a big
Yeah.
step. We need the funding for design. And I think, the town did request funds through the TSD program for design. They asked for, I believe, over $450,000 for design. So I don't know if the TSD monies will fund that, just because it's such a big chunk of the bike ped allocations. But there are grants out there. There are, to get phase 1 off the ground, we had to get federal funds.
Mhm.
We had to get TST funds. We had to get city funds. We had to get James Island funds. So maybe a mix like that.
How much, how many how many dollars are you talking about? What you just described for phase one, how much? is that?
So phase one,
Right.
design and construction was almost $4 million.
4 million?
Yeah,
And how much of that came from the feds, if you know?
the feds gave us 2.3 million.
And then TST?
TST, I would say, so between the town and the city, we got 800,000.
Okay,
So whatever's left over would be TST.
okay. So a fairly good hunk. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
No,
just
that's
wanted,
fine.
we were talking about
That's
funds,
fine.
funds.
Speaking of the next phase, so phase two would be where? After from George Griffith on
Fort
further out?
Griffiths to South Brimble, I believe, is the
Let's see.
phase two.
Sounds
And then
like
we also have a phase three planned, so that'll go from South Brimble to Solar Green.
that's gonna take a little while.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we need a budget request for 2024.
Well, there's also the new tax referendum that the county's gonna have in 2024. We can have that as a future project.
It's never half-cent sales tax?
Yes. yes,
Really?
Yes.
Oh, breaking news. Thank you.
Yes. So that'd be a good project to have on there.
Okay, great. So now,
Sorry.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, sorry.
The mayor's making funnies over here.
I do just want to be clear. I don't, did the town submit the TST? I didn't think they
They
did.
did, town of James Island did, that's correct.
Good for them.
Okay,
They submitted the request.
They did,
for
even-
Just design for
Okay.
phase two, yes.
and I don't mean to put you on the spot because
You're fine.
I know it was coming through, but then I think their council may have pulled out. And does the city, I don't want to put you on the spot, so if you're not sure, but well, you're good. We
I
don't
don't
need to
know.
take the lead on the TST. You don't know?
Yeah, I
Or you-
don't know. on that.
Okay.
I know they submitted a request for the design
Mhm.
and we don't know if we're gonna fund it until the new fiscal year.
Right. Now, if they didn't, would you need the city to then take the lead on that application?
Well, then we would have to wait till the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it doesn't matter who submits it.
Okay.
It doesn't, yeah.
Do you know?
Well, we did submit as part of our TST request for this year. So that's. I can't remember how many we submitted, but we did have it as part of the request.
So yeah, we have municipalities submit the same projects sometimes. So if they submitted it. to-
Perfect. I
'cause
just want,
sometimes the DOT will submit projects that the city has also submitted as well. so
okay, perfect.
We
Yeah,
see
we have
that-
enough-
we
we
see
have-
that all the time.
We have enough heads kicking around, looking at those requests that we can have some influence over it, I do believe, and we will do so.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah,
Any other questions? Anybody?
Oh.
Did I hear on phase one what our expected timeframe is for that? When will we?
Yeah, hoping to go to construction the fall of this year.
Fall of this year?
Yes.
How long a timetable do you think?
So we probably need at least a year for construction. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's some good news.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you. Thank you
update.
so much for coming. We
Yes,
appreciate it.
ma'am.
All right.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yes,
Just
Councilman.
quickly, there was National League of Cities, they've put out a great challenge, which sort of helps, and we discussed this at our James Island Intergovernmental, but thank you to Mr. Wallace for taking the lead, helping me with this application, and thank you for your support in your letter, Mr. Mayor. So hopefully we get that. It's a great partnership, a collaborative effort that could really help with Rethink Folly, I think. It would be a really great addition to this.
Well,
whole
we've been
project.
rethinking Folly for a long
Thinking-
time.
exactly.
Redoing Folly is something that we're excited about. I mean,
Yeah.
it's time. I drove that corridor this weekend and it just needs a lot of help. So,
Yes. And
thank
thank you for saying that, because it is not only, I think, the challenges that James Island faces, just as residents, it is the only way to Folly Beach.
Right.
And DOT constantly tells me, this is how they keep everyone moving to Folly. But we really have to remember that we have people that live and work there.
Right.
Our residents are so important. So this is a main thoroughfare to,
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the biggest destinations in this area. So I just want to make sure that, I think we have a lot of great things going. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time today.
Well, we may invite you back soon to hear the next great news. So thanks. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on our agenda, low line update. You see Ms. Cazella here. Are you flying solo today? All right, well, We'll let Mr. Froelich sit in the back there for a minute or two.
Yeah,
We'll
he
call him to arms if necessary.
he
All
can
right,
answer the
floor
tough
is yours.
questions.
Thank you for being here.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to give a brief update on where we're at with the Low Country Low Line project in reference to the planning and grant that the city was awarded last August for pre-construction activities for further planning, design, permitting, most importantly, more community engagement, and also some environmental cleanup work that we know is needed on the site. So if you're familiar with the federal process, once we get a federal grant, it does take some time. So after we were awarded the grant last year, we began some select city staff held our kickoff meetings with our partners at the U.S. Department of Transportation, including the division office in Columbia. They let us know that the process to our next step is to execute a grant agreement. That does take about 6 to 18 months. So we held our kickoff meetings with them in November and December of last year. And prior to that, we also worked with the BCDC COG to get the low line on the Regional Transportation Improvement Plan, which is critical for us to receive the federal funding once we're ready for that. So we held that meeting. They let us know about the scope of the time, what costs the city can incur now that we're under this grant process. And we sent our first draft of the agreement back to them, and they needed further definition of our scope for the environmental work that we need to do. So we are currently in the process. We've just went under agreement in April for a consultant to do what is called and referred to as the corrective measures and media management plan as required by the voluntary cleanup contract with SCDHEC. Basically, they're going to tell us what's needed to be done to clean up the site, the city-owned portion. We'll put that in the text of our grant agreement with the Department of Transportation, and then we can bring the grant agreement back to City Council to finalize. We hope to have that done in the next couple of months. I think Matt can speak more on the timeline to the work. He's been working with the consultants, but I think we were given about 4 weeks or so for the scope of the work to be done. And then once we go back and forth with the DOT to finalize the agreement. So right now, we really were advised by the Department of Transportation to not spend any city money that we would want to use for our match for the grant. It's just legally, things like that. They don't want us spending that money before we have the execution of the grant agreement. So right now, the current work being done on the low line is working with the U.S. Department of Transportation through this grant process. And we are completing survey and the corrective measures media management plan. So that's where we're at now, and we will be ready to come back to you all with an update once we're ready to have that grant agreement signed.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Any questions for any member of the committee? Mayor.
And Kaylin, you said that the survey is being conducted now?
So we have the site survey, which was already underway.
Okay,
That's being conducted, and then separately is what's part of this cleanup requirements from SCDHEC. This is the corrective measures and media management plan, and they will direct us in like how much dirt do we need to dig up on the city property, or can we cap it, things like that, and then we can put that definition in our grant agreement. So U.S. Department of Transportation knows we're using this funding specifically for these cleanup efforts.
right. Did the surveying include the leased area from the DOT? Do you know?
I know that I believe the survey work did that.
Yes.
But Jason's on there too, I think, but
Yeah, so yeah,
From afar.
yeah, the physical survey is underway. It's in 3 phases. 1 phase is complete. It includes the city-owned low line and the DOT lease areas. And the next third, most of the field work is underway, and then they should be getting underway on the remaining third soon.
Terrific. I remembered that we needed to have the leased areas surveyed as well in order to ask SCDOT permission to do things per our lease agreement.
Okay, any other questions? I've got 3 really quick questions.
Sure.
Remind us again how much the grant is.
so the total grant is 8.75 million. 7 million coming from, it was an 80-20 cost share. So 7 million coming from the federal government and then 1.75 million from the city match.
Have we budgeted that already?
It's in the TIF funding.
Correct, in the TIF.
Once we get to an agreement, we get it signed. Do you have any sense of the timing from that point forward as to when we can then start moving forward and spending some match money and get this project going?
I don't have an exact timing, but I think we can start the
Pretty quick.
process pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay, is there anything we could be doing now or are we sort of dead in the water until this grant agreement's signed?
I mean, the most important step that we're doing now is getting that further refined scope of what that cleanup work is that we can put in the agreement. So, I mean, because really, once we know what we can do on the site, that's going to help drive the community engagement needed to help drive the more detailed design for the rest of the project. So.
Fair enough. Great. Any other questions from any member of the committee? Thank you for that update. Helpful. Appreciate it. All right. Moving right along, approval of traffic calming devices contract. Mr. Somerville.
Yes, sir. The existing contract with Asphalt Concept, it basically expired in 2021. We went out to bid in May, and which we only got one bid, which was Asphalt Concepts again. So the contract before you is a 1 year with 4 1-year options to renew, not to exceed $149,040.
$149.40
Yes,
total or per year?
not to exceed for the 1 year.
Is there a reason why we had that gap between 2021 and now?
Not really. I mean,
Gotcha.
just
Just did. All right. Okay, any questions? Well, do you have a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second? All right, any discussion, any questions, any comments?
What does the run of the mill speed cost these days?
unfortunately, the prices went up, so they're like 3,000 more. So it's around
$8,000 more.
$8,000 for one traffic calming device.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, so I apologize, the 150, yeah, so how many do we allow? Will this be what is our speed calming budget?
A traffic calming budget
Traffic-
basically is the 149,
It's
40.
this, okay.
Yes,
And we have the new contractor. So it's the same budget, even though the price went up,
yes,
but
it's
it's
the
just a
same
new
budget.
provider. Okay,
Of course, like you said, the cost went up, the
Yeah.
cost for maintenance went up as
Mhm.
well. And we'll just try to work with that to get done what we can,
okay. And do we normally eat through that every year?
basically. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just for some historical perspective, this is a much larger budget than we even had 4 years ago. I think we were at
Yes.
$75,000. So we've been building on it and we always eat up and we always have sort of a backlog. I think we've cleared the backlog, right? We're kind of
Done well with backlog.
so
yes.
this is the first time in a long time we've actually sort of kept up with the requests. I always ask this whenever we have this conversation. Do we know how far into our 149 we are this year?
We have 135,000 left,
Oh,
so we
okay.
just started.
Do we have some projects on the books?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I suspect when we ask that question in December, it'll be much closer to 0 than 149. Right?
You should see a few at our next meeting.
Okay, great. All right. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, approval of SCDOT signal maintenance agreement modification number 2, Mr. Somerville.
Yes, this is basically modification to our existing signal maintenance agreement. They added the intersection of Fairchild and River Landing Drive to the contract, which is about $1,200. So $1,200 being added to our maintenance agreement.
So generous. Any questions for those newer to the committee about what this is all about?
Please.
I'll let Mr. Somerville explain it and I can fill in if need be, but I don't think I'll need to.
Well, that's why I kept Mr. Mitchell
Oh,
here.
Mr. Mitchell's here. I forgot. I didn't see it.
I put Mr. Mitchell on the spot and let him explain.
I'll
exactly
start
what
and
the
I'll let
DOT
him fill in. So the way it works is the DOT allows us back the ability to maintain all the signals that we've got. They give us a stipend to do it. We enter an agreement with them. They fund us for that agreement. They don't fund us enough. It costs us more money to maintain the signals than they give us. It's a white hot mess and a complicated job for Mr. Mitchell, who's back there. Wave. Thank you very much. So essentially, that's what it is. The DOT sends back to us money. We maintain the signals. But if we ever want to make any major changes, like phase changes or anything like that, the DOT still has the ability to come from Columbia and say yay or nay. Right? Essentially, that's what we're doing. Right. It's literally a signal maintenance agreement for signals that otherwise would be maintained by the DOT, which, by the way, I learned, and in this agreement, it's there. We do get a little bit of money for some phasing studies. If there's any need for phasing studies during the term of this agreement, we get a very little bit amount of money, $20,000, but it is out there. So anything you need to add? Troy? All right. Let's get to the committee members and then we'll recognize Councilmember Shea.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, this is sort of like the sidewalks. I mean, can this be changed? I mean, we're spending more, we're getting the county sidewalks. It costs more to maintain, it costs us to maintain, but we don't have the money to maintain it. We get the we get the maintenance on these lights, but we're spending more than it takes. I mean, is this negotiable or?
This is negotiated to the extent there is a negotiation. And the other option would be for us to take control of all of it, including the installation, building, maintaining everything. So we do get some benefit from this. And the DOT will tell you that this is common across the state. And they try to fund as much as they can. And there are some shortfalls. But the nice part about it is we've got our crew here. They know our signals better than anybody. They're responsive. So when we have signal issues, we've got someone on the ground, boots on the ground here. So it's not ideal, but it's okay. At least that's just one person's perspective. If there's a different view, I'm certainly happy to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I
see
would
some
love to
nodding.
hear from staff. I mean, how do you feel about these agreements? Is there something we can do to help support you to make it better?
Well, with working with DOT with this contract, it's worked well over the years of I've been here. We've gotten more accomplished than most municipalities because they allow us more lead than any municipality that has contracts. So with our system, we are way above and beyond other municipalities with technology. So it works very well for us.
Okay, great. Then I guess.
That is
That's-
right
that's
from the
great.
source.
There you go.
That is from the source. All right, I see a couple hands. Councilmember Brady has been quiet,
Yeah.
so we're gonna give him the.
No, I was just gonna say, it just had me thinking of, Winston Churchill, when he talked about democracy, he said it's the worst form of government except for all that have come before it. And I think like the signal maintenance agreement is like the worst type of thing, except for everything that we had before it. So it's not ideal, but it helps us in the long run.
Our team, our staff has had a great relationship with the DOT, and I think that that's a testament to the hard work that they've done. So we appreciate it. So more to come as we grow. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Chairman, I was under the impression that our agreement basically covered all the traffic signals in the city, but they don't. And case in point was a week or more ago when we activated the new traffic light on Maybank and Fenwick Alley, that there was a flaw that developed with the light at Maybank and Headquarters Road that I came to hear was a DOT signal that was not in our maintenance agreement. Is that right? And if that's the case, and I think DOT likes to keep bridges to themselves, so to speak, but how many lights in the city are not under our contract?
Signals that we own on the peninsula is only one signal that the city owns, which is Calhoun at Washington. West of the Ashley, it's going to be West Ashley Circle at the Walmart. It's probably about 5 intersections that the city owned that the DOT does not maintain as a part of their agreement.
I see.
And I'd like to add that we do have everything on Daniel Island now. So everything on Daniel Island is city. signals.
Everything on Daniel Island is city except for the new one that we just took maintenance of, which is Fairchild, which is still owned by the DOT, but it's maintained by us.
But let me get this straight. Like you said, we only own the one light on the peninsula, but don't we have in the agreement that we maintain the other lights on the peninsula?
Yes, yes.
So my question was, what lights do we not even have an agreement to maintain? I thought that was the case with Headquarters Road, that wasn't.
Headquarters, we are maintaining that at this time. We just took over that intersection, but they are rebuilding that intersection, even though we're maintaining it at this time.
I see. And that's just since this incident recently?
They're improving that intersection with pedestrian signals, and there's a total rebuild of that intersection.
Okay.
Yes.
What about Clements Ferry Road corridor? Who is that, DOT right now? And then will we eventually take over those? Or do we?
All of the signals along Clements Ferry Road, except for Jack Primus, is owned by the DOT.
DOT.
Yeah, but we maintain the corridor. The only intersection that we own outright is Clements Ferry at Jack Primus.
But we don't have that. I didn't see them in, maybe I just didn't see them in here. We don't have an agreement for maintenance on those. Then.
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do?
It's in there.
Okay, all right. I must have missed them.
I believe the only signal that is not showing, which might be the modification number 3, is the Sanders Road.
Yes.
That'll be coming shortly.
Anyway, I raised that issue, Mr. Chairman, because just to illustrate that there's always, it's more complicated than it
Always.
appears on the surface. Oh, yeah, we're responsible for maintaining the lights, even though we own some, we don't own others. And apparently there are some that we don't own that we don't maintain as well.
But that number is dwindling to a precious few, and we're gonna get that fixed, like the donut holes of signals. We're gonna get that fixed up. All right. Yeah, right. good. That and every zoning code and everything else. All right, the chairman is going to recognize briefly Councilmember Shade, who's a guest with us today, to ask a question.
Thank you. So in the attachment to our packet, it's marked as Exhibit E, about the 4th page of that document, it identifies the intersections or the lights. There's looks like 8 or 9 that are in my district dealing with San Wittenberg and Orange Grove Road. And y'all know I've been complaining about this forever, that the intersection of Orange Grove Road and San Wittenberg heading west, that light is 15 seconds for cars who want to proceed through the intersection. Are we going to increase that beyond 15 seconds? It is a hazard.
We can take a look at it, but it's part of a coordinated system. So if we make an adjustment there, we're gonna have to make adjustment throughout the corridor.
Yeah, and any adjustments that we make really has to be approved by DOT.
Yes.
Again, we maintain them, per the request. They really are the ones that determine the timing. So any changes, we have to get approval from them.
Well, I would greatly appreciate if y'all would put some pressure on them. It's 15 seconds is enough for one car. You ought to get 2 or 3 cars through there. It is a problem.
Which movement is it?
This is coming from Orange Grove Road heading west through San Wittenberg. The McDonald's is on your left, the CVS is on your right. It is a long turn signal, delay signal for cars coming out of Orange Grove Road, turning left, heading towards North Bridge, the bridge. The cars, neighborhoods coming out of from Park Shore, North Bridge, where the diocese offices are, they're heading out. Going straight, you got 15 seconds. And that gives you enough time for one car. If everybody's paying attention, because you sit there forever as the cars are making left and right hand turns. But going straight through that intersection is 15 seconds. It's just not enough time. It's ridiculous. There's a problem. I've been complaining about this about 4 or 5 years. And so I would appreciate if we can get some work done on that. Even if you got it to 30 seconds, it would be huge. It would be a double improvement on that. And I don't know when the last time they did any traffic studies out there. I know the county is very much involved in the improvements at that intersection. We could do some improvements at that particular intersection. But the light going straight down Orange Grove Road is just 15 seconds. And it's
All right.
not enough time. So-
Message, we got message received on that. Just for the
Yes.
record, for those of you who are not following along in the packets we have in front of us, this signal maintenance agreement has upwards of 400 lights in it. This is not just a few lights, it's 400 and some lights. So it's a busy job for our city team. So thank you. Keep up the good work. and
You're welcome.
Let us know. All right. Do we need a vote on this? We vote?
I think so.
Someone help me here. Do we have a motion on it yet? Have we had a motion? Have we had a motion yet? All right, can I get a
Move to
motion to
approve.
approve? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next, Upper King Street Traffic Detail Report, Mr. Lawrence. Any hot updates for us? Thank you very much.
To everyone, Tyrone Lawrence from parking. Yes, sir, the King Street detail is very impressive. Yoo-hoo!
It is impressive.
It's working very well. I mean, we're literally down to towing 0 cars. Saturday night, we didn't tow any. So I was very impressed with that. And it's because of the effort and the prepping before, ahead of time, with the bags and the flyers on the cars. We're getting a great response from the public, cooperation. And it's good, you know, when you can see the fruits of your labor. Started off, you know, stress months ago, but we're to a point now where it takes very little enforcement. As I'm sure everyone here can agree, you know, it's not all about the enforcement, it's the compliance. And we're to a point now where I can safely say that the public is cooperating and the compliance is at, you know, 95+%. So very little enforcement needed. By 8:30 at night, you know, the staff is able to turn it over to law enforcement and the route is clear, you know. We literally now can allow Uber Eats, Uber and Lyft pickups, you know, to stage 3 to 5 minutes without having to cause a problem of making those folks vacate because they're cooperating. But as far as cars parking and trying to park for an extended period of time, very little violation. So that's
Great.
impressive.
Any questions while we have Mr. Lawrence here? Mayor, so you have light on. Question?
I never cut it off, but I did have one, but Councilmember.
Oh, sorry,
Parker was
Councilmember Parker.
first.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know Councilmember Mitchell was worried about the surrounding neighborhood. Has everyone been okay in the surrounding
Yes, and
neighborhood?
that's impressive as well. By
Great.
looking at my stats, we don't have nowhere near the violations we've had a month to 2 months ago, with people parking too close to intersections,
Yeah.
fire hydrants, that kind of thing. So I want to think most folks are going in the garages.
Great,
So that's good.
awesome. Thank you.
It's work, sorry. Mayor,
So Mr. Chairman, I would like to request, we're getting good reports on that aspect of the program. And maybe this is more appropriate for Councilmember Shade's Public Safety
Safety
Committee,
side.
but I think it'd be timely to get an update from the police department on the effectiveness of the whole program in terms of public safety.
yeah, and I think it's a good thing. We should get that report because it has been a positive effect. And I
Yes.
think one of the things that Mr. Lawrence can tell you is our TNT department and our police department have worked very closely together to make this as successful as it's been, and it has been successful. So
Yes, sir.
love to hear from Lieutenant Byrne or somebody about the public safety side, but my sense is you're going to hear a very positive report.
Yep.
Any
Thank-
further questions? All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for being here. Appreciate that. Next, increase in hotel overnight parking rates. Who's in charge? Mr. Froelich. All right, we knew we were gonna fish out of the back there eventually. He has been back there. He got here early. All right, floor is yours. What we got?
Good afternoon. This is this will come up before you at Ways and Means as well. My understanding of that this committee was a request to raise the hotel daily parking rate. This would take it from $20 to $30 a night. Also, as a part of this, we need to increase the lost ticket fee. Industry standard is for it to be twice your maximum daily rate, which means we need to take it now from $30 to $60. It prevents abuse from people claiming they have lost tickets when they actually don't, to avoid paying that daily rate.
And won't, Mr. Sumbo might want to jump in here. When we get all our technology up and running, I mean, lost ticket issues are going to become less and less and less, right? I mean, the better technology we get, I mean, the whole idea of a paper ticket is going to go by the wayside eventually, isn't it?
Well,
So-
I think you're talking about the garage tickets, correct?
Yeah, just purely garages. I
Right.
mean, we still have to issue tickets. We only have 2 garages that have license plate recognition capabilities because of how the garages were built. We're trying to see as technology improves, what we can retrofit
Right.
to change that.
Got it. And I do think, as I recall, we have so many meetings. We talked about this at the budget committee too. I think the ad hoc budget committee heard a little bit about this and was favorably inclined towards it. All right. Questions, comments? So I have a motion. I guess the motion would need to be to increase the hotel overnight parking rates from $20 to $30 and the lost ticket fee to 60. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion, questions? Councilmember Parker. No, it's all right. We're going to recognize Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why stop at 30? I know that, I'm just kidding. This, I know you brought this up last budget season, so I'm all for this. And I just wanted to know how the hotels have received this.
Well, they're gonna receive it, I guess, when
Oh.
we approve this pretty
Okay.
soon, but they know this is coming. I don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna be a shock. to
They do.
anyone.
This
This
is
is a
a-
pass-through cost. This is gonna get passed through
Yeah.
to their guests.
Right, it's just they're eating a little bit of their profit, but it
I
is what it is.
suspect that their increase will mirror ours and maybe be increased even more.
Well, that's why I wonder why you stopped at 30.
Well, you know, one
Councilmember
step at a
Seekings.
time, right? You remember where we were in December, right?
All right,
Hey.
thank you.
So I'm all for the increase. But let me ask, what's the normal lost ticket charge for?
It's currently $30.
It's 30?
Mhm.
So I think I'd make the argument, I know it might be an industry standard to double it, but $60 is a lot. I bet there are not many cases where people lose their tickets, but I mean, if I did legitimately lose my ticket and you wanted $60, I'd question whether I ever want to come back to the place or not, right? So I would just wonder if we soften that a little bit. $50 maximum or something.
What I would suggest is if it is industry standard, is we sort of try this and if we get a bunch of complaints, we can go back and revisit it. I suspect we will get very few of no complaints.
How many lost ticket charges do we have? Do you
All right,
do you even
Pat,
have that
right.
information?
Last year for 2020, we had 6,078 lost tickets.
6,078 lost
Wow.
tickets. That's awesome.
That's $360,000 at $60 a
Now,
pop.
I will tell you that is a decrease because we do know that we used to have a lot of college students that would offend, that would go in, park for their cars of days on end and then claim lost ticket to only have to pay the $18 daily maximum. And the only way you could combat that was by having someone physically and staff go through and log every single license plate every single day to see if a car was
Oh,
sitting.
that's all lost tickets.
Yes.
No, but do you know how many hotel lost tickets are? there?
No, I do not. We had over 150,000 hotel
Days.
daily occupancy.
So the $60 is only going to apply to the hotel lost ticket.
It would
right?
be across the board, Mayor. There's no way to differentiate one from the other for a lost ticket.
Okay, so even if a local resident goes into the parking garage and loses their ticket, you're telling me it's going to go from $30 to $60?
Yes.
I think that's excessive for locals, for our residents, respectfully. And we're raising the rental rate for the hotel stayers. If you can't differentiate the hotel payer from everybody else, I would respectfully ask that we not raise that to $60.
Councilmember Gray.
Couple thoughts. One, in all my travels across the country, our rates are extremely low compared to other places where I pay hotel parking fees. Later this week, I'll pay $60 a night for a hotel parking fee. The other thing I'd say is $60 is that's 60 reasons why you shouldn't lose your ticket. So.
Well, that's true. And I'm okay considering raising the hotel rate, but if the lost ticket is going to apply to Jane Citizen from Charleston, South Carolina, that sounds like a lot. I mean, that's almost a towing fee.
Well, Matt brings up a good point though, and I know this to be a fact because I teach at the college and I hear about this from my students, that whole idea of I lost my ticket and we don't log in plates every day. $60 is cheap compared to the days on end that they sit there in those parking garages and don't pay the daily fees. So just got to balance that, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of transients that park in those garages, say, I lost my ticket. get out for a lost ticket fee when they should have paid 20, 30, 40 days.
And I would add now with our automated equipment at all of the garages, once you pull your ticket and you set it in your console, you don't need it again until you leave to pay when you exit. There's no pay machines or anything else that you have to carry your ticket to. Quite frankly, your ticket should never actually have to leave your car.
Councilmember Parker.
Just one last thing. I mean,
Sure.
obviously a big old sign
Lost
coming
tickets.
in,
All signage would be updated.
new
to follow this.
signage,
Yep.
big sign right there. But again, I do agree with you, going downtown, I go to take the kids to the aquarium. I mean, that's a big day for us. Blows the budget right out of the water. But we have an issue of people parking, right? I assume more, people parking for days, knowing they
Yeah,
know,
$30
they know how this process works. So I'm with you, Mayor. I think that's high. I think I lose things all the time. So it could cost me $60 to get out of the aquarium garage.
Wouldn't
I
that be
do-
excessive?
I do think
Yeah.
that is a lot. But like you said, I think we have to, it's a tough thing. It's a tough situation when you have whomever parking for days on end because they know that they can just do the lost ticket rate. So I don't know if there's a way to balance. I don't know if there's another way to fine tune that.
Well, it would be to amend the motion, I think, right
Yeah.
now would be the way to
I'm
do it.
getting ready to do that. Tell me again what the current lost ticket rate is for local people.
For everybody.
Lost ticket across the board is $30. So
$30.
by not touching the lost ticket fee, you would equalize it to the hotel fee
Yeah.
increase.
Right. I'd like to amend the motion to raise the nightly parking fee as stated to $30 a night, but to state the lost ticket fee at $45.
Like an auction. Is there a second to the mayor's?
I'll second that. And I'll just note that at the airport, like at the daily parking deck, the lost ticket fee is $17 per day though,
Per day.
per day, but they have plate recognition technology.
Yeah.
Right. Right, that's really a whole different scenario because they keep track of you by the minute there because they've got plate recognition.
We'll get there one day.
All right, so we have a motion from the mayor on top of the motion already out there to amend part of it to go $30 to hotels and stick the cap on lost tickets at 45. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The nays have it, so I guess we go back to 3060. Do I have a motion on 3060? Got a motion? Need a second? I don't think I can.
Discussion first, is that okay? Just a
Second and
question.
discussion. Second, then discussion and question.
Second,
All right, don't worry, you can kill your emotion. It's okay. It's allowed under our rules. It's unusual, but it's allowed. Yes, ma'am.
is there anything else that we can do to try to come up with a solution? A middle of the grounds. I mean, we do not have the technology to allow us to do something like the airport does. But is there something that we can do to alleviate the fact, I do agree with what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but I also think that it's being abused. I wish I knew how many of the 6,000, we don't know. 90%, yeah. So if that's the case, then I'm all for this, the way that it stands, but I just want to ask for clarification. Is there anything that we can do to find middle ground on the lost ticket? No, not without the technology.
Without,
lot of blank
without the
stares.
plate recognition technology, there's no way for us to drill down on an hourly or daily basis. And look, in downtown, I suspect if you went back and looked at those tickets, those lost ticket fees, that by and large, they're between August and November and January and April and or the first week in May. That's just a suspicion of mine, but we can go back
yeah.
and take a look.
If Councilmember Shealy were here, he would probably agree, right?
Well, we're gonna find out.
And that is a report we can run. I mean, we can run a monthly report to see what how our lost tickets fluctuate by month. That is something we can do.
Oh, maybe
Does
that,
it go down in the summer when the students aren't around?
right, is that something
What
that
I'm
would?
suggesting.
That would ease your mind, Mr. Mayor, that, you know, are they coming from the aquarium lot or are they coming from other lots? That would certainly make me feel better.
And that is probably something by garage we can look into as well. We can get that data as well. So if month and location garage is important to this decision, we can probably pull that data.
Does
I'm more
that,
interested in the dates than the garages, but anyway, yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to amend the motion to limit the lost ticket fee to $50.
I knew this was gonna turn into a bidding war. I knew it. All right, does the mayor have a second on his $50 motion?
I'll second.
Or 50? All right, any discussion?
well, we already had a motion on the floor, right?
Well, we did, but we're
Okay.
gonna let the mayor, we're gonna bump it up because we're about to run out of time. $50. We have a second. Any discussion? I'm gonna support this motion because I want to get through this, but I would like, Matt, if you don't mind, I don't want to create a bunch of work for you, but certainly our garage management team should be able to at least bring us back a report. And if we can revisit this at budget season, because we're not going to get a really good view of it right now because college is out of session, right? So if we can take a look at this when we redo our budget, because I think we'll be talking about parking fees even at a greater extent in November and December during budget time, we can maybe think about it. So Councilmember Greg.
Yeah, I just like, can we get the report before our next TNT meeting? And then if it turns out that the report thinks what we think it's gonna say, then maybe we adjust the parking fee then.
All right.
So
We can
that
always change it.
All right.
sounds good.
So on our rebid motion at $50, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Never thought I'd be an auctioneer today, but all right. Is there anything else? What's
Give
that?
him the gavel.
Right. Oh, all right. Anything else to come before the committee? Councilmember Brady.
Yep, just really briefly, the mayor had mentioned that the traffic signal installation at Fenwick and Maybank, and I know we're doing the traffic count study and that type of thing. And I was hoping at the next meeting, we could get just kind of an update. Because if I never hear about that light again, it will be too soon for me.
Can I tell you about my trip to Kiowa the other day?
No, but as Robbie well knows, so if we can get a report on the traffic study and how that gone or has gone or is going, I know my constituents would appreciate it.
We will make that happen. Just for general information purposes, we are not going to have a TNT meeting in June, so it'll be in July if that suits you. Okay. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. One last Rethink Folly plug. Ms. Zimmerman's here, right? May 10th. Please tell us, can she give us a little snippet?
She can give us 30-second snippet. Go,
Yes.
hit us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're not going to let you bid up over 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds.
Here, you can use this.
Thank you. Tomorrow night, at Martin's Barbecue off of Folly Road on Highland Avenue, we're going to have a Rethink Folly social in partnership with the town of James Island and the Rethink Folly Steering Committee. So that'll be a great opportunity to get a free dinner, go through, get updates on phase 1 and also give input on what you want to see covered in phase 2 and 3, talk through that. Also, the county will be giving updates on all of their James Island transportation projects and Folly Beach transportation projects. Is that everything? Oh, that's all of it. Yeah, it'll be a great opportunity to kind of reconvene around the Rethink Folly vision, get updates and give input. So if you can make it, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. Anything else to come before the Committee on Traffic and Transportation? If not, this meeting by acclamation is adjourned. Thank you all very much.